It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, we've got our first look at Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir in action. And
Technically, well, I don't know if he's underneath that hood.
No.
If he's underneath that hood while he's literally on top of that car hood, that's pretty impressive.
Well, you know, it's... Yeah. I don't know if it's a stuntman or not. You're right, but I'm gonna pretend it is. I'm just gonna be like in my head until proven otherwise. It is Nicolas Cage on those cars to do that. Marvel removes Blade from its calendar, Mike, and some other new dates. We've got some shifts around, and that gave me an awesome opportunity to go update our upcoming releases page. So if anyone wants to check that out, we'll talk about that later. James Gunn debunks a laughable AI trailer. And more. Mike just previewed it again right before we started, so it's pretty cool.
I forgot. It was so bad I forgot I watched it a couple days ago. So I'm glad there wasn't more. I was like, oh my god, did they make like a full 2-minute trailer?
Yeah.
Of course, there's not enough GPU power to render that much garbage for that many minutes.
I tell you what, it looked better than the mustacheless Henry Cavill from the first Justice League. So
well, like I know we're gonna talk about it like towards the end of the show, but there is a shot that's just like that is just a shot from Man of Steel. That like it looks like they kind of lowered the opacity a little bit on what is it, David
Cornsweat's face.
Cornsweat.
Yeah.
What's his name? I haven't learned his last name. David Cornbread. But
Delicious.
yeah, that was a pretty bad shot. But I suppose that could be a compliment towards Zack Snyder in a way of, even though I've pretty much loathed his filmmaking catalog, he does know how to make iconic shots to where I can go, that is 100% Henry Cavill from Man of Steel. I remember that frame wholeheartedly. So
I wonder.
Good job.
And we will talk about it later, but I want to put a pin on what snap filter were they using to make this trailer? Over just like, were they filming the original thing and like, all right, we're just gonna Snapchat, or I guess TikTok has face filters too, right? Either one, just to do that.
Man,
but it's wild.
If we were just gonna like pepper the top of the show with a conversation, Adobe Max was this week or last week, or
it was last week, I think,
relatively recently.
Yeah.
And I've never been, but apparently there's this part of the show called like Sneaks or something like that, and it's a panel where developers and programmers come out on stage and they demo tools that they've been working on at Adobe. And I guess it's kind of like fun and it's laid back, and there's always a chance that the new tool could crash. And if that happens, like the crowd cheers and everything. So it's kind of just like a fun, like beta experimental stuff. They showed off some crazy, crazy things. I use Adobe Illustrator a lot in my line of work. And that's like basically vector, mostly flat 2D objects is like the overwhelming things that get made in that software. But there was a guy at Adobe that's working on this like slider that will take a 2D object and rotate it in 3D, kind of like if you've ever looked in an art book for animation and you have like a character turnaround, so you see a character at different perspectives, so they know how to draw them from any angle. And it was like this 2D like clip art of like a dragon, and then he was moving the slider, and then like there was I'm assuming it was AI was interpreting what this 2D graphic would look like at different angles, and it was pretty crazy. I mean, there was some little bugs in it because they're still working it out, but I guess it's this AI wave in our future. And I feel like I overuse the term double-edged sword, but man, if I don't see life in pros and cons all the time, but at least it's nice to see cool things that AI can do. And then obviously at the end of the show, we'll talk about ugly, gross things that it can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with my wife actually at lunch today. We were, as I had to tell Mike, my phone screen cracked when it slid right out of my lap into my driveway. And when you're at the Apple store, boy, do you get to see some fun stuff, right? Some very expensive stuff. But they are just employees. They don't care about the new AI stuff. They're like, if it's not out on your phone, we don't get to test it till it's out, just like the regular people. I'm like, it's fine. But I was just discussing, like, my wife's a teacher and how she could possibly use AI to help with like some of her like lesson plans, like updating lesson plans they've been using for a long time, right? Like, how can you ask it to look at a different way and maybe get some ideas, and hopefully we get to play around with that a little bit more here around the house. But I'm jealous of people who have Adobe subscriptions. I would never buy one because I don't see a weekly use for Adobe, but like every once a month, I really wish I had like Firefly access or something cool.
I desperately wish that they would let me just get 2 software subscriptions. I just want Photoshop and I just want Illustrator, but they're either just like, you can pick one for like, I think it's like maybe $15 a month, or 2 is like $50 a month, and then for the whole creative suite, it's like a couple dollars more. Yeah. So they just really trying to push you into that like full suite of things. So it's it's frustrating.
Well, I want to talk about technology real fast, and because we were coming up on 500 episodes, Mike, in our 10-year anniversary, within a month or so of each other, and one of the things that we talked about a lot this year, and I think over the past few years, has been popcorn buckets, the popcorn vessels you can buy at the store. And as someone who is not a huge fan of historical movies or the movie Gladiator, the movie Gladiator 2 is coming out, and they have a popcorn bucket that you scan a QR code and it shows a scene inside the Coliseum that is the bucket. So they are incorporating technology into our popcorn buckets. And I shared this with you because I'm like, oh, this is a whole next level of stuff, right? They're not doing the gross things. They're doing the hey, use your phone to watch a video inside your popcorn bucket thing. And I don't think I'm going to see the movie, but it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's an interesting. I would give it points in the category of, yeah, that's interesting. That's unique. No one else has done that yet. Kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just love it whenever the conversation on this show can come back around the popcorn buckets, because I was like, okay, Chris is talking about technology, but he's weaving this into popcorn buckets. I think molded plastic is the oldest piece of modern technology I can think of, but we found a way. I'm not surprised like QR codes or augmented reality have found a way to the popcorn bucket. I mean, I would love to know if anybody's life has ever been changed when it comes to like scanning an object in real life, right? It always just seems like a gimmick that gets like a marketing team really excited. It just gives them another line of copy that they can throw on to their like next paid Facebook ad of like, oh, look, now with augmented reality. Like if you're a child, I suppose it's fun for maybe a couple of times, but really you don't want your kids stealing your phone every 2 seconds to scan the popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
So I just want to know if this feature has like really changed anybody's life in any real way beyond just a fun thing to look at for 2 seconds.
I think just to make sure you're talking about entertainment in augmented reality, because I use it to scan my couch upstairs. Without augmented reality, I would have never known where it fit or how it would have laid out my.
That is 100% different.
Yeah, okay. Just
I'm
making
saying,
sure, like entertainment value.
This is like, look at this commemorative Coke can, and if you download the exclusive
the Marvel thing, literally the Marvel Coke cans they just did,
create an account, give us access to send you emails every week, and then give us root access to your camera and your photo album, because we need that in order to scan this can, and then you'll get to see a little CG guy
this is
like
already
web
twice.
Swing around this can.
This is twice you've already done your double-edged sword in the show, Mike, because you got to have your good AR with your bad AR, right? You got to you can't have your furniture sizing and placement without the hey, we're gonna scan some cans, as you mentioned. My fear and this I think it's a cool idea. I think I would be high on my list of like unique situations for popcorn buckets. But my concern is, in about a year, when they take down that website for Gladiator 2 and you can't watch that anymore, what value does it have, right? Because technology is only as good as it lasts. And if someone goes on the server and deletes it because we're like, we're not spending money on this anymore, you've lost the entire functionality of that AR in that popcorn bucket, right? Like
the single best thing my camera does for me outside of taking pictures is scanning QR codes when I'm at the grocery store. So if I want to digitally add the coupon to my account, I just take a picture. I don't even have to take the picture. It just, the link shows up when I open up my camera, and then it opens up my Ralph's app, and then bam, I got the coupon for buy one get one on like Lay's chips or something.
What was I doing? Something the other day. I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple days ago, where I took hold my camera up, I was able to highlight text on something and then copy that into my thing, because the iPhone camera and probably Android, I just don't have one to test, does the OCR, right? It reads the text in your photo now, so you can actually like highlight text in a photo kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I've done that. I've actually done that before in a real way, where I needed to, I don't remember the scenario, but like I don't want to type this long character out, and then I took a picture of it, and then I copy and pasted it from the picture, and then pasted it into the form on my phone.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, this is great.
I knew what it was. I was playing an original Xbox game, Mech Assault. I don't know if you ever got your hands on Mech Assault back in the day. It's a mech game. You'd saw, you're like, yeah, I get that. But it was the menus were all in French for some reason, and I'm like, where do I go to change this? Well, you could pull up my phone, highlight the text, and translate live while I was doing it, so I could figure out how to get through the menus, because I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. I'm very lost, and I thought that was a practical assessment, right? Language translation, if you need to along the way. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun stuff, Mike. That's good start. Good start to the show.
Speaking of fun,
look, I'm going to be honest.
As I say ironically.
Look, I went and saw Venom 3 this weekend, the last stand. I saw it Thursday, opening night in theaters. It's now out in theaters. And I will tell you right now, I didn't find it out until after last week's show. It has 2 post-credit sequences. There are 2. One kind of mid, one after the credits. It's a long credit sequence, too. Like, I really had to go to the bathroom. I had too much liquid in me. I'm like, this needs to hurry up. I got to get going. But I'm gonna be honest. Again, the Venom movies are at most mid, but I had a lot of fun with Venom: The Last Stand watching this, and I will tell you, there's a benefit this movie has, Mike. Going into this, we don't have to build up the relationship of Eddie Brock and Venom anymore. And that was great, because they're already bonded together. They already know what's going on. They got their personality quirks out of the way, and they can just get right into the movie and the action stuff. Because the first one, you have to build them up, right? They have to get the team. The second one, in Let There Be Carnage, they split up for a while. There's like that weird scene where Venom's like taking over people and doing all the dancing, like on the nightclubs, right? And you're like, oh, they're having relationship problems. Well, this one, there's no relationship problems. They've worked it all out. And I love that fact, because you're like, okay, they can just do Venom stuff, and they don't have to worry about, like, oh my God, this is awful kind of thing. And I got to say, I really enjoyed that. And the movie just kicks off and goes. It picks up from the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, where he is in technically the MCU and then gets warped back into his universe, if you will. So it does pick up right from that post-credit scene from there, and goes into this movie that just is it's not unrelentless, but it just goes. There's action, there's aliens, the xenophages, the big aliens that we saw hunting them down in the trailer. They essentially are kind of like a wood chipper. What goes in their mouth comes out the back of their head in like blood and guts. Like, it literally just chews them up and spits them out the backside. So people, other symbiotes, stuff like that, it just goes right back out the other side. And I thought that was a pretty cool design for a villain.
I'm using one of our kind of newer favorite tools that we like to pull up on the show occasionally, which is the movie comparison tool for the numbers. Now, this only tracks the domestic box office, where I wish this tool would also bring in international, so I don't know why it doesn't do that. But I pulled in all 3 Venom movies, and I'm actually surprised to see that Venom Let There Be Carnage and the first Venom tracked domestically almost identically. Like, the lines do not really diverge all that much. And looking at the trend of The Last Dance, it's falling behind a little bit, but I would say it's within the margin of error. So if things go the same, at least they can say they've consistently made 3 identical movies in a trilogy. So if you started off liking this trilogy, I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you that you have this nice steel book that you can eventually, put on your shelf and enjoy for the rest of your life. But the thing that's not noted here, and I don't really want to look it up right now, budgets do not stay identical throughout the franchise, right? So I'm sure they've been losing a little bit money every time because they have to pay everybody involved in the movie a little bit more after every film.
120 million on this one is actually less than I think the other ones.
Whoa!
Along the way.
Oh, I guess there could be that unintended strategy of like, hey, movie star, we know you're attached to this franchise now. And the only way we could pull off one final one is if you take a cut.
Well,
I was like, oh, okay, let's do it.
Well, I also think it's story by Tom Hardy, and I think his wife Kelly Marcel's the director, so it might be like a package deal as well to reduce costs.
Oh, I didn't know that. So maybe it's just like, okay, if we're all gonna get paid a little less money theoretically on this third one,
get it on the
at
back
least
end.
let's get our bona fides up a little bit.
I think it's gonna be on the back end. So I will say I don't remember Venom Let There Be Carnage, Mike. I'm going to be honest with you. I remember the first Venom wholeheartedly. Venom Let There Be Carnage I don't remember very much of. It's a very forgettable movie. This way better than Let There Be Carnage in my opinion. Like absolutely, I'm going to remember this. This was very fun. There was I nothing against Woody Harrelson, skulking around as a weird dude, like a mass murderer, but like this one was I think far beyond Let There Be Carnage, and there's nothing against that. When you were talking about the numbers, I looked up too. I'm like, how did Let There Be Carnage actually make money? In hindsight, I'm like, I don't remember this movie at all. But this one has some pretty cool stuff. There are, this is no spoilers. There are multicolored symbiotes in this one, Mike. So you actually get to see like different colors of symbiotes rather than like, oh, they're all black, kind of thing. Kind of going into it, there's people from other MCU Marvel properties. The guy who played Mordo, Baron Mordo, is in this as a character called Rex Strickland. Nothing connected to the MCU. There's the Rhys Ifans who played the Lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man. He's in this. Not the same character at all. Different characters. So everyone's trying to draw these lines between like these actors or this. I'm like, they're on a payroll. Like they're actors. Of course they're going to take roles. They don't have to be the same character across multiple movies. And the big question everyone's going to ask, Mike, doesn't mention Spider-Man in this movie. We've talked about rumors about the character Null, who's in the trailers, being Spider-Man 4 villain. There's no, I'm just going to tell you, no Spider-Man in this. Very unrelated from Spider-Man. So all those Null rumors seem to be, pun intended, null, because there's literally nothing of Spider-Man in this movie at all. So that's very disconnected.
Null in a void, if you will, because I think he's kind of trapped in a void.
Yeah, he's on the planet Clintar, the home planet of the symbiotes. They give him he's at the intro, and they kind of like, oh, the only way he can get free is if he gets a codex. And I don't know if you've ever seen like recently in Marvel, there's like a big spiral symbol on like Carnage and some of the symbiotes. If you look it up,
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's a codex symbol, so they lean into that, the comic booky parts of that a little bit. Is it a perfect movie? No, there's some weird stuff in here. There's one of the characters she was struck by lightning on the beach when she was a kid, and she was holding her brother's hand, and it killed him. And I'm like, why is this even a part of this movie? It feels like there's some parts that were maybe cut out to just, I don't know, focus it down. But I'm like, we don't need the backstory of this weird lady who's studying symbiotes. So overall, yeah, it's way better than the last one. I think this was a strong way to end this in this trilogy. On this, I do not, short of this making a bunch of money, and it might overseas. I hear it's doing really, really well in China right now, and they gave it like the Chinese Republic thumbs up for like, yes, we approve this movie for people to go see, kind of thing. Which is weird, but I guess that's how they do it over there. I could see them getting a fourth movie, if you will, but like if they don't, this ends pretty well, if you will, for how it ends.
I would like to see Tom Hardy get off a plane in China.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like he would have a very warm reception.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Chinese are loving him or they just love the black goo monsters.
Yeah.
But you know what? Good for Tom Hardy.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, like I said, like you literally said it. And I'm just gonna reiterate: if you like the Venom movies, you're gonna like this one. You're probably gonna like it. If you don't like the Venom movies, they're not trying to change your mind. They're just continuing on their trajectory. So it's not gonna sway you one way or the other. I think critically, I think on Rotten Tomatoes is like 30-something%, which is like lower than Let There Be Carnage, which is really weird because again, this is way better than Let There Be Carnage. But it's not like, oh, we're shooting for the moon here. Comparable recent superhero movie, I guess comic book movie, Joker 2. Love this way more than Joker 2. Had a way better time watching this than Joker 2. So yeah, if anyone has any questions on it or hasn't seen it, let me know. I'll be happy to talk about it with you. But let's shift gears. Sony is still out there. They're doing Spider-Man stuff. They don't want to give it up, Mike. They want to hold on to it. And one of the things that we've been talking about the past couple of weeks is the live-action Spider-Man Noir show that is coming to Amazon, starring Nicolas Cage as an older, I guess, detective, the version of Spider-Man Noir that he voiced in Across the Spider-Verse. And we got our first photos showing the Spider Noir suit, and I have to give it to Amazon/Sony on this. That looks like the comic book suit, Mike. Like they really kind of pulled it off the page.
Yeah, really. I mean, to be honest, at least I, for one, have been like dogging this show. Like, why does it exist? This is stupid. We don't need this. Sony, we need to take the keys back from you when it comes to Spider-Man. But I don't know. Weirdly enough, my caveman brain was just like, that looks like thing I saw earlier in cartoon, and then it makes me excited. I've never really thought that if this would be the direction for the show, because we've had some reports of, the story, but we don't know what the tone of the show is going to be. I mean, we can kind of infer based on the idea that it's this noir Spider-Man, but I mean, if you look at this live action version, compare it to the version that Nick Cage also plays in Spider-Verse, I mean, God, like, not necessarily identical, but extremely close.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, if this is just the live action version of the exact same character, I would love that, because that means we would get almost like a comedic show. Because if I remember back to the original Spider-Verse, and Chris, maybe you have a better memory than I do, or maybe you've seen it more recently than I have, I'm not sure. But if I can recall, Nick Cage and Spider-Man Noir in the first Spider-Verse film were essentially comedic relief, because he was so dark and brooding. It played for comedy every single time. And he was almost funnier than Spider-Ham was, which is a pig that's a Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so
it's very. I
just love that.
It's very drastic contrast to our normal Spider-Man, who's quippy and funny, right, and doing all the references. Whereas this is kind of like an emo Spider-Man, right, if you will, if you could put it in there, who also is like, it felt campy in like a good way. Like he's like, oh, he's dark, he's broody, he's like talking to himself, kind of thing, and trying to suss things out along the way, and it's very played literally, like you mentioned, the opposite of Spider-Ham, who was slapsticky, right, pulling out hammers out of the air. So it's very much different than any other Spider-Man. So if they can pull off that tone, I agree. Like that would be absolutely funny to hear someone who's like, thinks of himself, and because Noir is very a lot of voiceover. He's doing a lot of the voiceover stuff, and that says the audience is hearing it and it's coming across as, oh, this is like very goofy because it's the 10s or 20s based on the cars here in the show. Now, you also sent me a video. I don't have the video. I couldn't find it, but you sent me a video of them actually filming this on top of the car with motion, and it looks like he's got like spider webs he's like yanking off the windshields with and stuff like that as well.
Oh, yeah. That he's taking up the iconic kind of like spider stances for shooting webs, which I was kind of curious if they were actually going to incorporate webbing, because I feel like we've talked about versions of this character before that are kind of less spidery, like there's really not adjacent to the spider powers at all, but just kind of like the look overall. So I was like, oh, which way are they going to go? Is webbing on a TV show budget going to be something that they want to do? But yeah, he's on top of this like Model A looking car, like shooting webs, and it looks fun. I never would have thought like a set photo would be a good marketing tool for me,
Yeah, well, I think should have led with this, right? The suit. Like, I think lead with the suit. Show us that you understand that part, because again, I'm going to look at Sony this year. They've had 2 movies. The third one, Craven was not played. A trailer was not played in front of Venom. I think they're really going to try to bury Kraven. Mike, I think they're going to bury that movie. But like Madam Web, absolutely awful suits. Like, you know, like they had a couple of scenes of it, but like they didn't really play into them very well, right? Remember, it's like, oh, it's the post-credit scene and like a partial vision of them in the suit. So I think that's bad. Venom 3, obviously Venom suits, the symbiotes, very iconic. They were able to nail that. And then, you know, Kraven, they got the suits. So I think if they lead with the suits, kind of like Kraven, they would have more people on board earlier, but like just showing Nicolas Cage fall down some steps or what it was in the first set photos, I'm like, that's not very, very interesting either, right? So I agree with you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, in the video, it gives them the illusion that they're driving, but I don't think they're actually driving, right? It looks like the car was bouncing up and down in place, or do you think it was actually moving?
It was kind of hard to tell. I felt like there was enough motion there to be like, oh, there's probably a stuntman under that. And I honestly, I think that's par for the course. I don't think there's anything like unique going on here. I Googled it. I did a Google. Nick Cage is like 60 years old. Mm-hmm. If they want to throw him on top of a car, I'm sure the insurance liability rate goes up a little bit higher.
Yeah. And my guess is there also could be some flashbacks when he was a younger Spider-Man Noir, so it could be a different actor under
that's a possibility.
That. But big win for visibility. Doesn't mean the show's going to be good at all, but you know, this is a positive view, as Mike's caveman brain would say, for the show. On the third Spider-Man note today, we are all over on the Spider-Man news this week. This is actual news. Spider-Man 4 is officially releasing July 26th, 2026, with Destin Daniel Cretton confirmed to be the director as well. We kind of had that confirmation for a while, but this is straight from the old spider's mouth, if you will. So
I'm doing this live in real time so people know how useful this tool is. I'm looking at our upcoming release calendar on our website, which is just a super, super nice text-based list. No pop-up ads, no nothing. We're just kind of giving you the tools that we like to use as well. So next year, we have Captain... Because I saw this the other day, and I was kind of surprised how quickly it was coming up. So we have Captain America, New World Order, or Brave New World, however you wanna
whatever
that was supposed to come out.
Is.
That was supposed to be out already, which essentially means we're getting 3 Marvel movies next year. We're getting Cap, we're getting Thunderbolts, and then we're getting Fantastic Four. All of those movies, it feels like we're speed running because the very next the very next Marvel movie, I believe, is supposed to be Avengers Doomsday on the calendar.
There's one more untitled Marvel movie for February of 2026 before that that they've not done yet.
Like, that makes me wonder what it's supposed to be, because I'm looking at the calendar. Do we think this Spider-Man movie... Yeah, I guess it's coming out post-Doomsday, so... If this is kind of leaning into that idea of could the next Spider-Man movie be like his own like Manhattan battle world type situation, that theory could be holding a little bit more water now that Doomsday is coming out. I feel like I've distanced myself so much from the MCU calendar because it's been so tumultuous. Mm-hmm. They've announced so many things have been canceled. We're going to be talking about other like things that could be canceled here in our next topic. So, yeah, it just really makes me wonder. They have an Avengers movie coming up soon. Like, that hasn't happened in so long. And all of those movies are so popular and so successful because it's a lead up. There's so much has happened to get you to that Avengers movie. And as of right now, if I look at the landscape, it seems like everything out there has just been so hit or miss. So it just seems like these next few movies coming out are going to be so, so important. Mm-hmm. Especially with Fantastic Four. I feel like Fantastic Four is going to have so much built into it going into Avengers Doomsday. So, yeah, what's this mystery movie, and then how does this affect Tom Holland and a Spider-Man movie coming up?
Yeah, so I actually updated that. I actually had forgotten to click save last time we did that. So it is now officially the Spider-Man movie. It was actually an untitled Marvel movie until like 2 days later. Then it was officially Spider-Man 4. Tom Holland also shared that, so he's coming back, as we've kind of guessed as well. Again, we have no story beats, as Mike said. Like, literally, we don't know if it's a multiversal. It does not seem, after watching Venom: Last Stand, that Null is the villain. It does not feel right now that it's a Venom Spider-Man team-up movie, Mike. Despite the rumors that were going around, a couple weeks ago, I think, 2 weeks ago. So There's going to be some very, very disappointed scoopers out there who are going to get their credibility knocked down based on that kind of stuff. So
I think if I remember right, it's been a long time since I've read the original Secret Wars, and I've never read the newer run of Secret Wars. So I don't know exactly how the Spider-Man black suit is incorporated into the new run. But if I remember, in the classic sense, the black suit is a cool moment, but it's not like this huge, like, Marvel history-changing thing. I think it's just like Peter needs, like, an edge in a combat, and I don't even remember exactly where the black suit comes from.
It's a machine,
but it's just kind of
or
like
he finds it. It's one of the two. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah. It's just like a cool thing like that happened. It's not like supposed to be this like huge, like, you know, like Cap picks up like Thor's hammer or something like that. You know, so it makes me think like, oh, there's a battle world situation. You know, Spider-Man needs like the upper edge, and like somehow a symbiote gets on him. It's like a cool moment in theaters where everyone gets like super happy, and then you know it's done and over with. You know, it seems like they're not gonna make an entire movie revolve around the symbiote, since we've kind of already had a Tobey Maguire movie where a whole narrative has revolved around the symbiote.
Yeah, well, and if they did, it needs to be different, right? We don't need a piece of rock lands in New York happens to attach to Spider-Man, and it makes him an angry person. And I think we've talked about it in depth, like what needs to change on that story beats to make it new and unique, especially for the MCU proper. So will it be Secret Wars? The newest Secret Wars didn't have anything to do with the black suit, because obviously the original black suit, no one knew Venom was going to be a thing when that black suit came out. It was just a cool design change for Spider-Man, and then it became Venom later. So in the new one, actually they use, like I mentioned, Miles Morales as someone who became a friend with a molecule man who was actually able to pull Miles into the Marvel Prime universe when they all merged back to one kind of thing, rather than letting him stay in the dying Ultimate universe. So I mean, also for better or for worse, I think Insomniac kind of scooped Marvel. Like their version of the symbiote, I think, is the most modern and up to date and clever version of it. I loved how it played out story wise in that video game. It was like a great way to reincorporate different characters, but tell a fresh perspective of what the symbiote could do. Yeah. So I don't think Feige can do any better than that. So I would say just they kind of abandon it in a way, at least for now. Well, the Spider-Man game took it from the Ultimate Universe, where the original Venom suit symbiote was created as a cure for cancer, like a cancer suit that you would wear to heal your body. So there are ways that you can update Venom and make it a good story, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily an alien from Clintar coming to Earth to, you know, be mean with Eddie Brock, because, you know, the Spider-Man game didn't even have Eddie Brock in it, right? Like they used different characters, so you don't necessarily need Eddie Brock for Venom to work in Spider-Man and so on and so forth. So actually for a while in the comic books, the Dark Avengers, which is kind of what the Thunderbolts is kind of based on a little bit, Mac Gargan, the Scorpion, was Venom for a while. It bonded with him for several I guess years in comic books. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with it. But I'm excited. This is great news. This is a great announcement. We'll probably be getting more information as, you know, they start filming next year alongside the Avengers movies as well, because Tom Holland's gonna be splitting 3 movies pretty good, because I hear he's gonna be pretty heavy in Doomsday and Secret Wars as well. So Tom Holland's got his 2025 schedule booked for filming movies. But as Mike mentioned, you can always go to superheroslate.com, click upcoming releases on the top, and view all these things free. And our newest, one of our newest additions / removals is that of Blade. 2025 November Blade is now removed from Marvel's release calendar. Now, there's two things to look at this. Number one, what was it Bob Iger said last year, or at least since he's been back, we're stripping down the number of movies per year. 3 max, right? I think was his promise. And we've always been hesitant because next year, there were, until this week, 4 Marvel movies on the calendar. We're like, how are you going to do this? And they've taken Blade completely off the calendar. Number 2, the report, it is delayed but not canceled. They've just taken it off because the report is that they're making room for the multiversal stories to tell that collaboration, as you mentioned, Mike. I guess the culmination for these multiversal movies before coming back and doing Blade, which is not multiversal at all. In scope.
This kind of feels like, in a good way, of producers and studios doing their job, maybe making the hard decisions, knowing that, oh, this is, not going to play great in the headlines and the trades. This movie's kind of been jerked around so many times. We don't want to lose faith from our fans with the property, and who knows, something like this could, finally, pun intended, drive the stake into Mahershala Ali, and he just wants to move on and do other things. And then, oh God, what happens when we have to announce like a new recasting? What's going to happen there? But if it's not going to fit and it's not going to work, don't sacrifice the quality, or the scheduling of it, just to get it out. Mm-hmm. When I think of Blade, the character, extremely terrestrial in a way, right? Or all of these kind of like dark, monstery characters. I mean, even if you've been watching Agatha all along, like you might be talking about like spooky dimensions or ghosts or stuff like that, but it's all very terrestrial. It's all very earth-based. I don't really see the multiverse, coming in and complicating things any more than it has to be. Mm-hmm. So it just seems like, take a beat and just wait until you get some of this multiversal stuff wrapped up, and then who knows, maybe this rebooted MCU that we keep talking about, maybe that's a good time to reintroduce Blade, right?
Yeah.
Back when we're grounded again.
Yeah, I think if you tried to do, go from Fantastic Four to Blade to Doomsday, because we don't know what that February movie is yet, that's a big, and you just don't do anything with them. Like, that's a big miss, right? Like, kind of thing. You're like, well, what are you going to do with Blade? Oh, he's not in the next 2 big Avengers movies. Why did you even put him out in that spot if he's not going to make anything? And I feel right now, again, just like Shang-Chi, right? He was the second movie of Phase 4, and I'm like, where's his next movie? Like, we need to get him out here quicker. I think he might have had, he could have played a bigger part in Avengers King's Dynasty, but he can't now, so we're not getting the Shang-Chi 2 until afterwards, most likely. I would love for them all to, this to be a big win, like you mentioned, and be good news, but it sucks to have something taken off. And after the nod and wink at the camera that there's only one Blade during Deadpool and Wolverine earlier this year, so it just feels like it's always getting pushed back. And this feels like there's one movie every phase that does that, right? Like, remember when Inhumans was announced by Marvel for like Phase 3, and they were like, nope, we're taking it off, Marvel TV gets it, kind of thing. So
maybe you can answer this question for me. Why does there seem to be this attitude out in the world that like Wesley Snipes was like wronged or something when it came to the Blade movies?
No, absolutely
or,
not. He like, it's rose-tinted glasses. It's all it is. It's rose-tinted glasses.
Because he got 3 movies. He had a trilogy where he got to be Blade. I know that there's all these like stories of like, issues with on set with like directors and other actors, but the fact that like everyone's rallying around like, oh, there's only one Blade and there'll only ever be like one Blade, and it's almost just like, why do people think the movie has been like disrespected in a way? I guess when people talk about like the start of the superhero craze, usually they kind of ignore that movie and just go straight to Spider-Man or X-Men. So I guess maybe that's a way to look at it. But he still got 3 movies, and you were totally right. The rose-tinted glasses, like as that trilogy went on, those movies didn't get better. They're still fun. There's still positives to them, but like, he got to go out 3 times as Blade. Yeah. It's not like we need to save this man's career or something.
Well, it's kind of like the Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man. Everyone's like, oh, he didn't get 3, right? That's why everyone rallies behind him. But like Blade, like, one's good, 2 is great, 3, no, not at all. God damn, that one sucks. Like even Ryan Reynolds couldn't save that movie, right? So like, it's just like, people are like, oh, I remember watching Blade, 20 years ago, and it was so fun to watch Blade 2 20 years ago. There's nothing there. And you can hear from the directors, you can hear from Patton Oswalt, Ryan Reynolds himself. Wesley Snipes was an issue on Blade 3, and that's why they didn't make any more. Like everyone's like, we're not working with him. He is a problem. We'll get this movie done, but that is it. He's burned his bridges in Hollywood for that. So I do think it's just rose-tinted glass. I think people just think back like, oh yeah, I liked watching Blade 2. Can we have more of that? It's like Hellboy. Hellboy 1 and 2. Yeah, fine, I guess, with Ron Perlman. We don't need a Hellboy 3 out of that situation either. We got 2. It's fine with me. But also, before I forget, in place of Blade 2, or not Blade MCU, they're putting the movie Predator Badlands, which is the sequel to Dan Trachtenberg's Predator that was on Hulu a couple years ago. That was really good. So,
I saw a thing where they were talking to the director Dan Trachtenberg in an article, and he was talking about Badlands, and he also said there's like a secret additional Predator project that's going to get announced soon that is supposed to release really in the near future, and nobody knows what it is. Like, is it another movie? Like, what's happening here? Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad I invested my time before I became a parent into watching all of the Predator movies, so I could kind of have them downloaded into my brain. So
that's a ride. That's an up and down. That's a huge.
And it was exciting. And I've also seen every Alien movie except for Romulus coming up. So it's this whole like universe in my brain, and I'm seeing headlines of rumors of another Alien versus Predator. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm like, yep. I'm primed. I'm good to go. Let's get this hype train going.
You should watch Romulus if you get a chance this week, since it's still spooky season.
Oh, I need
for
to.
Another week.
I want to watch it so bad.
I would love to talk with you about it because I watched it when it came out, and then there's the Alien. What's the other Alien? The series, Alien Earth by Noah Hawley, who did like Legion. So very, very excited for that. We're in a good thing. But anyways, back to Blade. Blade delayed indefinitely until we get a new calendar date. I fully expect we'll get some more news for it. But following this was a rumor on the Midnight Suns movie that the movie Midnight Suns is getting fast-tracked to be out post-Multiversal Avengers films. So doing Blade and then getting into the Midnight Suns based on the characters we've seen who have not really shown up yet, including Blade, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, and maybe some of the witch stuff we've seen. I doubt it, but there's an opportunity for them to do some cross-pollination there with this series if they want to.
I just desperately want a big catalyst to happen in the MCU in a way of like, if they're going to do like a soft reset or a hard reset to this universe in Subway, I would love it to have like ramifications for our entire world, like going forward, right? Maybe this big disturbance across the universe or the galaxy or whatever during this reset makes this monster world become more active and aggravated, and like all of a sudden, Blade and these monster type slayers need to be more active out in the world or something like that. Or like maybe if you're watching Agatha all along, they talk about how these witches have had to be hide and secret for all of these years. Like maybe after a big event in the MCU, witches don't feel like they need to hide anymore or something like that. I just want something big and meaningful to happen after this big multiversal saga.
Well, it's going to be X-Men. I'll just go ahead and tell you, it won't be the supernatural side. It'll be the X-Men catalyst. But a theory I would have here is at the end of Secret Wars, they merge a bunch of different to become Prime Earth or whatever, just one universe. They merge a bunch of different ones together, which prominently X-Men or prominently supernatural kind of things, and like it becomes normal rather than them being in secret. So like that is the catalyst, is like we now have to like coexist with things we didn't think were real because everything got merged back into like one kind of Earth, if you will, would be a possible way to do it. But you're right, it needs to be different. I think one of the things you always talk about is Iron Man 1 is the catalyst for the current MCU, right? Iron Man 1 was the catalyst, and it has to fit within Iron Man. Well, after the multiverse collapses or doesn't collapse or whatever, they can have a new catalyst, right, to set the new tone for the MCU going forward as like you mentioned, a hard reset or a soft reset, whatever they want to call it. So I think they need to again make it so all of this stuff works together, right? That we can say, why are there X-Men now? Where have they been for hundreds of years, thousands of years? Okay, well, they start here. This is now point 1 because X happened here.
Yeah, the final season of the Umbrella Academy was absolute trash, and I hated it. But there was a storyline that had promise in it, where when they were transitioning to the final season of Umbrella Academy, it was all about kind of how these different timelines had like vanished, but people in this current universe could somehow kind of remember them, and they would find artifacts for things that happened in the past that didn't actually happen in their timeline. So I think that would be kind of like a cool dramatic thing to put into the new version of the MCU, where if all of these timelines collapse and fall onto each other and everybody wakes up one morning and nobody really remembers anything ever being different, it would be kind of fun if maybe just some characters left over from Battleworld remember what life used to be like. And I think now that I'm explaining this, I think they did something kind of similar in the Arrowverse when they did one of their millions of crossover events where something happened where, like, you know, the normal like background characters
they
that are
merged,
buying coffee don't know any different, but like, you know, Supergirl, like whose universe merged with Arrowverse, like remembers what it used to be like. So I think there could be something fun like that.
Yeah, and if you, and I recommend for anyone who hasn't, please read Secret Wars 2015. It does a lot of that. I think it would help people like, oh, this would be a great direction to go with that. But Midnight Suns, based on the game recently, based on all the stuff we've kind of seen, you know, just a different part of Marvel, you know, the supernatural, if you will, would be really fun to go into. So hopefully they can get Blade up and running and then into Midnight Suns pretty quickly and do that. Before I forget, the Marvel Studios, other than removing Blade, they added three new movies for 2028. February 18th, 2028, May 5th, 2028, and November 10th, 2028. My theory, I didn't put it down. I'm actually going to put it down. Actually, Mike, is one of these. Is it the X-Men movie? I don't think we're going to get X-Men before 2027, which is when the second Avengers comes out. So maybe they kick off the new Marvel with X-Men right off the bat.
Yeah, that would be a good tone setting thing of mutants affect the whole world on a scale, and maybe that's a strong narrative to start off.
Yeah. I also put Blade or Midnight Suns because we've been talking about it. Would love to get back to Shang-Chi too, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. And we don't have any word on Doctor Strange 3. I would love for that February 2026 movie to be Doctor Strange 3 that incites the Doomsday in the Secret Wars stuff. But if not, I think throw Cumberbatch a bone and put him in 2028. Any thoughts? Any movies in here that you would want to see that I've not listed in these quick?
Every time we talk about Shang-Chi, I just think Simu is very active on Threads, and Threads secretly knows that he is Shang-Chi, so they always put Shang-Chi stuff in his algorithm, which means he's always like replying to people and their thoughts on his movies, which can be really funny sometimes. Of like somebody will like dog his franchise and he'll just comment and be like, "Hey, it's not for everybody," and then you're like, "Whoa, I can't believe you responded to me. Oh, I actually like you now."
Oh yeah.
But
is that the James Gunn approach?
Often, yeah. But often he's like he's just usually reminding people like, "Oh, don't worry, a third one's coming, I promise," you know. So
yeah,
he's confident that there's going to be more.
Well, second one at least. He's going to get to 2 before he gets to 3, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else. I don't know what else I'd throw in here. You know, we talked around the idea of a Thor 5 redeeming like Love and Thunder, right? With a Thor 5 being in the works. They might give Sam Wilson another Cap movie, right? Maybe even a third Captain Marvel movie, wrap up some of these trilogies. I don't think we're going to get Eternals 2. But, you know, we'll see. But as you mentioned, it's weird to look at 2028 and have these movies kind of planned out that far in advance, right? These dates locked in. So
yep. My kid's going to be 4 years old, depending on the part of the year.
3 to 4.
Like getting close to 5. Like it's just that's crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. We'll see what we kind of get to, and maybe it could be a Young Avengers. Maybe me taking them to see Young Avengers, Mike, along the way. Little news about Armor Wars. We don't have any update on dates or anything like this, but the original series writer Yasir Lester says, I think that like Marvel is constantly in a state of like, what is the most interesting? And he also said, and I think they're taking that more into account, giving that a little bit more thought now. So here's essentially said some of the shows should have been movies, some of the movies should have been shows, but they're not Marvel's not releasing things as they once did. What, 4 years ago, or I guess 3 years ago now, whenever they were the Chapek era, as we would refer to it here, where they were like shows, movies, now. So it sounds like they're, as we've been promised, there's just more work being done behind the scenes to ensure quality over quantity, right?
Yeah, I would think the future of Armor Wars heavily depends on Ironheart, of, you know, how well it does, what's the appetite for, you know, these armored characters. Because Armor Wars was very early on announced alongside of the Disney Plus launch, and it seemed like that was kind of vibing off of the energy of seeing War Machine and his like giant like mech-like get up and Rocket Raccoon riding on him at the end of Endgame.
Yeah.
Like put that screenshot at the top of articles, you know, when you're talking about the show Armor Wars. And yeah, I'm excited, but man, we're so far past that by now. There's so many people that have joined the MCU late, and you know, Iron Man 2 is not exactly held up, you know, as like a top 10 film. So people don't even remember Justin Hammer anymore. That probably would show up in Armor Wars. So, I mean, I think it could be fun. You could definitely do good stuff with it. But yeah, I think unless Ironheart does really, really well, I wouldn't be surprised if it.
Well, I don't know what Ironheart can do to convince them, because they already made that show. Other than, I guess, critically,
well, it would have to be for the reception of it. You know, if they start pulling Agatha All Along numbers from Ironheart, they're going to be like, yeah, let's freaking fast track this. Throw Don Cheadle in a second season, or maybe we just call the second season of Ironheart Armor Wars. You know.
Well, the problem is Ironheart was done filming a year ago or more, so it's just kind of been sitting in that void for a while. So I don't know how much the quality can change on it. Hopefully it can do, because again, it's part of the pre-Iger, I guess not construction, but productions, right, as well as this. So maybe I think one of the things that Marvel has done that I'm not a huge fan of, they gloss over huge events, right? The snap, glossed over. Tony Stark's death, kind of glossed over. I think if they're gonna do Armor Wars, maybe they could even change the name a bit. I don't know, but like it needs to be like, what is that Stark legacy, and like of his weapons and suits, and who's been doing that. Hopefully, you know, it's better. I think Don Cheadle's a great actor. I think he could lead a pretty good movie, but I have at this moment right now, I have no interest in Ironheart unless it can show me something new that we've not seen before. But I don't feel it's changed enough since its original inception that we're going to get anything, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll just keep it. The trailer was pretty okay when we saw it last time, but I'd like to see some more. Deadpool Wolverine, Mike. I just got my copy at home this week, so for people who want to get it, you can get it at home. But Ryan Reynolds shared a photo this week of himself in his Deadpool suit with Leslie Uggams, who played Blind Owl, in their apartment with Christmas decorations and obviously the Wolverine popcorn bucket sitting in the back. Now, as people may remember, Deadpool 2 had Once Upon a Deadpool, which was the PG-13 version, featured Fred Savage scenes that they went back and filmed extra stuff for. This seems to be more, maybe, are they getting ready for like an Oscar season or the Academy Award season nomination that they've been talking about? Like they may be doing something fun for that, for your consideration. I don't know.
Or maybe they could possibly be cutting a promo for promoting the release on Disney Plus, because I think it's supposed to be hitting Disney Plus. Well, at least like November or December seems like.
Yeah, we talked about whenever
place.
The original season, I guess Disney Plus dropped November of 2020 or 21.
Yeah. So the holiday decorations are kind of syncing up with that. So maybe that's what this is. It's going to be a big push to get people to subscribe to Disney Plus during the holidays, so you can catch Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah.
So it sounds like they're filming some more stuff. Definitely not out of the suit for good. That's for sure, right? He's out there having a good time. I'm excited. It's always fun to see what Ryan Reynolds brings to the table. And I'm excited to watch. I haven't got a chance to rewatch the movie this week with everything going on, but I do plan this coming week to sit down and to rewatch some Deadpool and Wolverine now that I have it. Two other things real fast in the realm of physical releases, which I don't think we'll be talking about much longer in the next few years, Mike, but I'll grab on what I can. Loki Season 2 and Hawkeye are both getting Steelbook home releases. I've included the images here. I like the Steelbook designs they've done for the shows. Loki Season 2 comes with some deleted and extended scenes and like bonus features, like 2 deleted scenes / extended scenes. Nothing much. It's kind of disappointing overall. But I will say that on the flip side, Hawkeye on its Steelbook is getting like I guess close to 15 deleted scenes from its show as well. So I'm like, okay, that's got some content in there that's behind the scenes. I could not tell if you get to see Rogers the musical in its full effect though.
That would be amazing because the actual musical itself had a very short run out here at Disney California Adventure. So if there was a way that you could, legally obtain a recording of it, now this is just all speculation, but that's how you move a Hawkeye DVD. Is you put Rogers the musical on it for sure. But this just reminds me that we reported months back, that Disney had sold off its physical kind of media distribution to a third party. I think so that's probably the main reason that we're kind of seeing these things put out, because they're just looking at a spreadsheet and running numbers of just like, oh yeah, we can afford to produce these steelbooks for, I don't want to call them small, but they're not movies. These are just Disney Plus titles that most people buying them will have already seen them. So these are like strictly just like
collectors.
Almost memorabilia purchases. Collectibles in a way for people to pan out their collections, or maybe smaller percentage like gift to friends maybe that don't have Disney Plus, which I gotta imagine that's a very small.
It's cheaper to buy a Disney Plus card than to buy these things. I'll tell you that right now. Just give them a digital card.
So I would say like, hey, if the business model works for them, I'm happy for them.
Well, like
we don't often get a lot of physical things when it comes to streaming these days.
One of the other things is even if these were made, I think these were made beforehand because there's already been 4 series that have got the steelbook things before they sold off this stuff. So this is I think 5 and 6, and they're obviously not going in any order because Loki Season 2 was recently Hawkeye's beforehand. We had Echo and some other stuff, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel in there that have not gotten home treatments yet, but. This is some extra money for those streaming services that are like, hey, people are probably not revisiting these shows. Can we resell them and recoup some cost on them, right? A little extra cash on top for the people who did it. I'm excited. The ones I talked about, Moon Knight we have a Moon Knight. There were some other ones I wrote down a list. I'm like, I'm missing Echo, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and Secret Invasion. Those are the 4 that do not have it. The holiday special, Guardians Holiday Special, Werewolf by Night do not have home releases, and then the animated shows did not. I was really surprised they wouldn't try to release X-Men 97 after the popularity, right? Like try to get that at home maybe soon. That
would be great. I know that there's a I can't remember. I was in a Barnes and Noble, and I saw that there was an X-Men the animated series art book, but I can't recall off the top of my head if that was for the original series or the new series.
Was it the big long ones, the wide ones?
Those usually the dimension. But that would be sick. So, I love art books.
Yeah, I love art books.
I always buy them, and then when they show up in the mail, I look through them like for 10 minutes. I go, oh man, this is so cool! I can't wait to open this back up and look at the stuff later. And I literally never open them up again. It's kind of the only thing that I collect, which is very unfortunate because they are large and they do not fit usually in standard bookshelves. So I just have this stack of art books growing underneath my desk.
I've been collecting some of the older ones at Comic Cons. Like they'll have like places that sell comic books. So like, oh, we got a couple art books we never sold. I'm like, yeah, I'll take a couple of those with me.
Well, the cool thing about them is there's actually a collectability to them because usually they are limited run prints. Like they will print off like a big batch of them, usually around the time the companion movie or series is out. And then after that, if the movie is not insanely popular, they usually never print more of them again. So obviously you can go get art books for like Spider-Verse movies because that movie's so popular and stuff like that. But like... I'm thinking just off the top of my head.
Deadpool Wolverine just came out, and I don't think in a year people will be like, I got to have that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's probably harder for live action movies as well. But I mean, I loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, but I wouldn't be surprised if that art book is not going to be in print down the line in the future. So yeah, that's a heads up. If there's ever an art book you really really want, it's usually good to nab it earlier than wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like the art books as well. And like even the shows that we're not fans of, like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, like that art book, pretty good art book. Like to see the stuff that they didn't really come to life, but you're like, oh man, this would have been great to see along the way, or how those teams kind of designed that stuff. But yeah, for those who like physical releases, Loki season 2, Hawkeye coming out pretty soon. As soon as I get the release dates, I'll put them in here and there in the next show notes with links. That way, whenever I hear about them, for you. Lastly, we're going to talk a little bit of Superman news. It ain't much, but it is funny because there was a news station showed this AI. I wouldn't even say it's AI. It's just really bad CG fake trailer. And James Gunn put his puke emojis to it whenever he saw it and shared it, which gave it more visibility than it probably should have gotten, because I never would have watched it unless James Gunn commented on it. But like, it is just it's just atrocious. And Mike was like, did someone just make it bad when they fell for it? And I'm like, no, based on this, it looks like somebody was like, we need to show Superman footage to talk about the news of it wrapping, or like, you know, some other production. Make a fake footage trailer for us, which is like 20 seconds. And
yeah,
boy, is it awful.
I wish I was familiar with the news broadcast or station or whatever language that they're speaking, because I'm just thinking, because it looks very like local newsy to me, or like small segment, even if it's on like a national broadcast of who's reporting this news. Like, I feel like it's niche podcasts or internet blogs that would report on a movie wrapping. Like, I don't like turn the news on and see news of movies wrapping. That's very like, who cares until the first trailer's out. So I don't really know why this is newsworthy for somebody like turning on the TV to catch the weather.
Well, it's I looked up. It's just a channel France too. So this is actually one of like the main France channels when they're talking about it. And they pulled this footage to show it, thinking it was a real thing. So I think they were just talking about movies coming out next year. I think it might have been like how I guess whatever this segment was that's ending. But the people there look very, very like uninterested in what's kind of going on, don't they? As well, they're like looking at these. I'm like, they look real. Oh, the Super/Man Christopher Reeve story. That's why they're talking about it. It's in the background.
This is just a great time. Reminder. You know, we're here towards the end of the show. You know, you're going to be signing off here, and you know, maybe going back out into the world, possibly calling your mother or meeting up with family. And this is a good time to remind the older people in your life of how to spot AI-generated videos or images, because they need your help.
Well,
they need your help of, like, you know, look out for extra smooth skin. Still, extra fingers are a problem, not so much as they were like months ago, but you can still find some weird stuff out there. You know, just look around at the environment. I think the best way to spot anything AI generated is if anything is in a sequence. If somebody tries to generate the next angle of the photo or the next seconds of the photo, they never look identical. Like the color of the sweater could change, or like the street sign in the background's like not there anymore. But these are things that you need to let the older people in your life know about.
And well, it is true. So Mike and I have been sharing really, really bad takes on the Thunderbolts lately. We talked about the special Red Hulk last week, right? The one who looked all plasticky and melty. And then Mike found another one that's, you know, supposedly a breakdown of the movie, and it matches up with the poster I shared with them a week ago, even though like the image is different. I'm like, the Punisher is not joining this movie. Please, why do people think the Punisher is joining Thunderbolts? You know, and like, you know, oh, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, I'm looking at those. Matthew McConaughey is going to show up, and this is Norman Osborn. I'm like, oh my god, like what is happening out here for people to just share this stuff? Like, and who's falling
it's like
for it?
We already have a Thunderbolts trailer out in the world now. We have an official poster as well. I feel like you should the news and rumors that are floating around should just be solidifying a lot more, and they should start to resemble more of what we're seeing in the trailer, or more of what we're seeing like on the posters. And I'm just seeing so many like outlandish things of just like, okay, maybe if this would have been like 4 or 5 months ago, these rumors maybe could hold a little bit more weight. But I feel like I don't know what rule we want to call it. Do we want to maybe put a line in the sand, Chris, and maybe call it the superhero slate, like logarithm or logic to it, where there's like a disparity between rumors and fact like cut everything by like 40, 50, 60%, and like the percentage changes as you get closer to the release of what could be plausible.
We have for a very long time on this show taken ourselves at least providing the best, most accurate information we can, not presenting the what ifs or not what ifs, but like, oh, this is like, we're not sharing these really, really bad articles, right? At the end of the day. Like literally, well, I'm stuck on it because Norman Osborn, played by Matthew McConaughey, we would know Matthew McConaughey was in this movie, right? Before it showed up. Like, not really a secret, but also we also know that Norman Osborn is not in the MCU based on Spider-Man No Way Home. So sometimes this just feels like either someone with a wish, this is my wish list for what would happen in a Marvel movie, went to an AI, or something else. But yeah, we got to figure out some way to like help people. Like, yeah, this has never been announced. Like, it's not even been announced. Like, some people are like, oh, there's this new Marvel movie coming out for a character, and it's coming out next month. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it has not been announced.
Here's the rule. Here's a rule of thumb that I always forget to follow myself. So it's kind of like, do as I say, not as I do. Whereas I always latch onto the more sensational rumors of like cameos and like these big things that could happen in the movie, when it's almost always what happens in MCU movies, which this is how it should happen because they're narratives, they're stories. It always loops back around to what is the story the movie's trying to tell. Like, does Red Hulk need to be in this movie, or is this movie actually surprisingly going to be more about the characters on the poster?
Yeah.
Right? I always forget that, like, at the end of the day, they're making a movie and they're trying to follow a script, and the characters have to have arcs, and it has to be satisfying at the end. We've gone on a journey with these people, and it's like, you're not going to get Punisher, Norman Osborn, Red Hulk. That's like so many extra things that throw at this movie.
Ghost Rider showing up, guys. Don't worry about that. We got Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I just always forget that's just like, oh yeah, we are just trying to tell a story, and more often than not, these movies are more insular than we always pretend that they're going to be. We're living within this small world that they're creating, and then we earn it once we get to Avengers, right? We get to those movies, and that's when the crazy stuff starts happening. And I feel like we've fallen into this trap where every movie has to be an Avengers movie in a way. Mm-hmm. So I do it too. I'm guilty, but yeah. If you ever kind of want to maybe read the tea leaves, read the tarot cards, if you will.
Strip it back a bit,
Yeah.
Yes. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's how I'm going to look at that. Lastly, here for Superman, we have an upcoming leaked list of merchandise that includes some interesting things here. We're going to take it out here that there is Lex Luthor with a baby kaiju. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
I'm interested. Ultraman, which we had kind of previously guessed that was the guy in the big black suit who looked like Black Noir from The Boys, right? Who's actually like has old Superman in handcuffs, so we're going to see who he is. And then somewhere at the bottom it says DC Direct Collector Vinyl Figure Baby Joe. Who is Baby Joe? And why do I want to know who he is?
I did a very cursory Google before we got to this topic, and is it like a baby? Is it a baby Superman? Am I totally off base and totally wrong here? I don't know what a Baby Joe is.
I don't. Literally nobody knows. Like we can't figure out. Oh, Baby Joe is Joey Mason, Rex's son, Metamorpho. Oh, apparently that's the newest update since I last put this in here. Metamorpho is the guy who has like multiple colors, so maybe it's his son who has the same maybe powers as him.
I don't know. This is the nice thing about finally the DC universe being developed outside of just the big three, is I finally get to learn more about these comics that I never get around to reading. Mm-hmm. I've always leaned more into Marvel and their big events, but occasionally I'll pick up like a trade, from DC, like the what was it, Superman, like the Red Sun,
what
if Superman landed in Russia? Like, that's fun. I want to read. That's almost like a what if, so I read that one. That's interesting. I've seen a lot of the Batman, big event arcs, but I'm not diving into Metamorpho comics. I don't think I've ever read a Green Lantern comic. I only know the Justice League animated TV show, which, to be fair, I believe is like very faithful to comic book arcs and stories, and everyone loves that show. So it's not like I'm totally, out of my element here, but it's kind of exciting knowing that there's a universe kind of getting kickstarted, and I can go to the movies and just like not know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is fun. I don't know these characters.
And it's great that these characters already exist there. We don't have to go through origin stories for everybody again, right? I think you know who Hawkgirl is and what she does, right? Like, you don't have to know. You know what a Green Lantern does and their powers. We don't have to go in and see the Green Lantern origins. We probably will in the shows, like for the individual characters, but like Superman, we don't need to know why the Green Lanterns are there. I think it'll be an interesting take and a different way to do it, and I am down completely to just dive into these characters that already are grown and existed, and they'll be fun along the way. All right, Mike, that is the episode. It's a good episode this week. I had a good time. If people want to know more about what you're up to and what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Yeah, you can read my web comics at pickledcomics.com, liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, people want to catch up with you. Where can I find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. If people want to know more about our show, where they can get that upcoming show/series list or any of the links that we've talked about here in today's episode, where can they get all them goodies?
Yes, that's superheroslate.com, superheroslate.com, superheroslate.com. Go check us out there. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love listening to fine podcasts like our own. We got merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Reach out. Let us know, what are you most excited about when it comes to the upcoming DC universe? Is there a steelbook out there that doesn't exist that you want to pick up and hope it arrives in the universe for this holiday season? Let us know. We love our super fans. If you want to be a super fan of this show, so easy to do. All you have to do is share this show right here that you're listening to. Share it with a friend. Share it with a buddy. And we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.